Carrigan, the principal of Franklin Elementary School, and please remain standing for a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Right, recognitions and good news awards. We will ask Miss Bell if she would lead us off with that.
Our student artist Our student artist of the month is not here, but I'm going to read his information. This month's Franklin Special District Artist of the Month is rising seventh grader Asher Furmanek. This detailed and realistic drawing of a soda can was created in Freedom Intermediate art teacher Madison Morris's art class as part of a still life study. Working under the focused glow of a table lamp, he carefully observed the highlights, shadows, and reflective surfaces of a can. Using a variety of graphic pencils and shading tools, he skillfully applied techniques such as blending, hatching, and gradation to show strong contrast and the direction of light. His attention to subtle details and tonal values brought a striking sense of realism to the final piece. You can view Michael's artwork. You can view Asher's artwork along with other pieces by Franklin Special Artists at the Central Office Gallery. Our special thanks to Chuck Sugg and Sonic Drive-In for his support of the Franklin Special District Student Artist of the Month program. And I received one, so thank you, Asher.
Thank you. All right. We have a special recognition on tonight. So I'm going to ask Dr. Snowden if he would present that.
Yes, a little over a week ago Sunday, at the National School Public Relations Conference, our own communications specialist, Susanna Gentry, was honored with a Golden Achievement Award. So, and it was for our strategic plan process, and Dr. Decker was heavily involved in that as well.
Thank you.
And I borrowed your award.
Took it off my shelf.
Took it off your shelf. Congratulations. She usually does all the awards, so today we had to maneuver a little bit around her, so she wouldn't say, when she would have probably balked, and then I would have had to say, do you want to still work here? I'm kidding.
Thank you. We certainly appreciate Susanna and her team and all that put the hard work into our new marketing campaign. So thank you. At this time, public input. There's a podium to my right. If there's anyone here for public input, please come forward. Seeing no one, we declare that public input is now closed. All right. Reports, presentations, discussions. Dr. Decker.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Tonight, the Teaching and Learning Spotlight shines on Leadership Retreat 2025. From June 11th through 13th, this invaluable annual opportunity for the members of the leadership team to reflect, analyze, learn, collaborate, and plan unfolded in the Leadership Room in the Performing Arts Center. The teaching and learning team, in consultation with Dr. Snowden, begins preparations for the next retreat as soon as the one at hand concludes. The goal is always to wring every worthwhile drop from the time together in the interest of student achievement and well-being, as well as our own professional growth. This year, day one commenced with a return visit from a longtime FSD community partner and colleague, Derek Young. Mr. Young is a motivational speaker and culture and career strategist who employed his highly relational, deeply knowledgeable style to address the topic of maintaining a winning culture. He delved into the crucial nature of making the standard the starting point, with an eye toward excellence for all. He emphasized the importance of winning culture behaviors, such as being in tune with others, initiating positive connections with others, caring for others, empowering others, and holding others accountable. Promoting and celebrating these winning culture behaviors is a key component, as is periodically seeking and gaining inspiration from role models and people that we strive to emulate. The afternoon saw the leadership team examining how various personality styles impact our approach to our roles and responsibilities and to each other. The conversation centered on how being aware of and understanding those styles can help us to streamline our efforts, have more compassion, and ultimately be more intentional and effective. We then discussed opening day 2025 plans, right around the corner, student and staff safety, 504 plans supporting students who have characteristics of dyslexia. While the full leadership team was in attendance on the first day, day two focused on academic items, so only principals, assistant principals, Dr. Snowden, Dr. Esslinger, Carol Reardon, and the TNL team convened. As is typical, district documents were distributed. A high priority initiative, the new science textbook adoption, and the revised Tennessee academic standards for science were provided the necessary time and attention for school and district administrators to be able to fully support teachers, staff, students, and parents as we implement both in the 25-26 school year. The team then devoted mindful consideration to further steps to enhance Tier 1 instruction and targeted interventions based on individual student need. Our novel approach to high-quality student writing, Writing Revolution, the newly developed Special Education Resources website, and Canva. Of course, we dedicated thoughtful teamwork to the next level of work in our ongoing quest to be, as a district and individual schools, the highest functioning professional learning communities possible. It would not be a true leadership retreat in the FSD without a little bit of fun team building and camaraderie, both so key to ensuring that we fulfill our roles to the utmost of our abilities. All in all, the retreat was a golden chance to learn side by side and to renew our solemn commitment to put students first, embody excellence always, and make no exceptions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All right, thank you. Approval of the board agenda. Is there a motion? Motion by Ms. Stilling, second.
I second.
Ms. Parker. All in favor? Thank you. Approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Ms. Bell, is there a second?
I second.
Ms. Parker. All in favor? Thank you. Business before the board. Dr. Snowden.
Yes, sir. First item tonight is the FSD budget for fiscal year 25-26. The final general purpose and debt service budget documents, including a summary and complete revenues and expenditures, have been provided to you. During the work sessions, a lot was accomplished through great questions by all of you and great discussions. We are very appreciative of your diligence during this process. I would also like to recognize the work done by Dr. Esslinger, the finance personnel, the school and district administrators and supervisors during this entire process. We also always appreciate the board's continued focus on providing FSD employees with an extremely competitive and quality compensation package to recognize their dedication to both our students and our families. The proposed 25-26 budget provides a 2% cost of living increase in addition to their step increase for all FSD employees, continuation of the driver retention and recruitment program, and continue to pay 100% of the employee-only health coverage and 65% of the health coverage costs for other family members anchored in the standard PPO tier instead of the premier PPO tier, as well as other considerations in the final numbers. As we talked about at our final budget work session, there is no FSD property tax requested in this budget. Additionally, through the budgetary process, we presented and discussed budgets for federal capital projects, food and culinary services, and MAC. And speaking of federal dollars, you probably heard, not rumors, it was factual that part of the federal budgets, the different budgets were not going to be, or they were frozen. The funds were frozen for a couple of weeks there, I guess. But then we got word late Friday or sometime on Friday that they were going to release those funds. So we anticipate that we'll get the same funding, I think, as we did last year. Pax, is that based on last year's numbers or?
They gave us last year's numbers initially, so we still don't know exactly what
Okay.
we're getting this year, but we are getting something in the equity title program, which is better than we
Right.
anticipated.
That's right. The administration recommends approval of all budgets presented during the process.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the budget.
Ms. Bell, is there a second?
Second.
All right, Ms. Barker. As always, we'll do a roll call vote.
Just a quick question.
Yes, sir. Quick question.
We discussed it at the board work sessions, I think, but I didn't hear you mention it. The tuition reimbursement program that's included.
Yes, it is included. Yeah. We just continued the same amount. I think last year we raised that amount from 30,000 to 40,000. Kept it that 40,000 rate. But yes, that is included, as well as the national board incentives, and I'm trying to remember the others, but all those incentives, the $50 once you retire, you have sick leave, $50 a day up to 200. So all those things, none of those were changed.
Okay, thanks.
Before we vote too, I just want to say how much I appreciate the work you went into it. I know we weren't sure how we were going to be able to do the property tax, so I appreciate that we figured out how to make a budget without raising the property tax this year. I know a lot of people appreciate that live in the Franklin Special District zone.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any other discussions? If not, we'll roll call vote. Ms. Barker?
Yes.
Mr. Blair, yes. Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Stillings?
Yes.
Ms. Newman?
Yes.
We are approved. Thank you. Dr. Snowden?
Yes, our next item, now that we have a budget passed, we need to fund it. So with the approval of these budgets, the tax rate we set for both the general purpose and debt service, the tax rate to fund the proposed budgets is 0.4323 cents for general purpose and 0.1550 cents for the debt service, for a total of 0.5873. We recommend approval of the 25-26 FSD tax rate as presented.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to approve?
I move we set the tax rate at 58.73 cents to be divided as discussed.
Yes. Motion by Mr. Stillings. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Newman? Is there discussion? Roll call vote. Ms. Barker?
Yes.
Mr. Blair, yes. Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Stillings?
Yes.
Ms. Newman?
Yes.
We are approved. Thank you. Dr. Snowden?
Yes, so we will embark on a series of board policy revisions. As you know, our legislators worked really diligently during the last session to pass 75 educational related bills. I'm not certain if they had time to work with other topics, but I know they worked diligently to get some education legislation passed. Tonight, as we go through these policies, and our plan is to recommend on all the ones that are being required by law, that we really don't have any choice in the matter, is to ask the board to consider adopting on first reading and waiving second. Now, with that said, we're not opposed. If you choose, if you would like to go and have the second reading, we certainly can do that for our next month's meeting. So, no offense taken if you decide to, well, let's not waive second reading on this particular policy. Okay?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Um, a lot of the, there we go. A lot of the policies, as required by law, are just TSBA's interpretation of what that law means. And we've seen in the past where we have adopted something based on a first reading and it being law, and then there's been a reshuffling because TSBA's reinterpreted it and submitted a different policy. So, has that happened a lot? Do you recall?
I don't think it happens a lot. In a couple of these, that is a possibility. Uh, the one related to the Family and uh, Medical Leave Act, there's an attorney general's opinion being sought about that because initially we were of the understanding that a school board could choose one or the other as far as the leave. Um, but at this point, the recommendation is to leave both concepts in there. And then once an attorney general's opinion is issued, if it allows a school board to choose just one avenue for that leave, then we'll come back and ask for a revision on that. And they're always the same thing about the communication about threats. There's a lot of misinterpretation or different interpretations, I should say, I guess, about what constitutes a threat that's in the informing of law enforcement that will determine what is communicated to parents. So there's still some, I guess, I don't know, confusion is probably not the word, but maybe not clarity in some of these. But I still think since we might as well, in my opinion, we need to go ahead and pass because we have to conduct the policy as it is now. And if it changes due to whether it's an attorney general's opinion or whether it's an interpretation by, and I think under the communication part, it would not change a change in policy. It may change in our protocols as far as what is communicated. So we usually don't see a lot of those, but we have seen some in the past. And I just gave you two examples of things that might happen.
Okay, thanks.
Can I just say something before we start too? Because you just mentioned it. I mean, I know these are laws that we have to follow as a public school. I just want to say it out loud that now that private schools are receiving taxpayer public funded money, it's discouraging that they don't have to follow these same laws. And I think that's an important thing for people to know out in the public.
Especially since they call themselves public charter schools.
Right. Private schools, charter schools that are receiving the voucher program this year are not held to these same standards. And I want to say kudos to us for following the standard to the letter of the law, but it is not equitable in the school year coming forward for the other systems to not have to do that as well. Nothing we can do about that, but I wanted to say that out loud because it has bothered me as I've been reading through these. We're held to a much higher standard and we meet that standard. So I'm proud of that. But if you're going to receive money from taxpayers, you should meet the same standards.
All right. Are you ready, sir? You want to get that on the record, so we're good.
Right.
Yes, sir. We're ready.
Item number 3, new policy, service animals in district facilities. First reading, this policy is being added due to federal laws enacted in accordance with provisions of the American Disabilities Act. We recommend approval of first reading and ask that second reading be waived.
All right.
Move to approve our first, waive on second.
Move to approve. Waive on second. Ms. Barker. Any discussion? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Dr. Snow?
Item number 4 is a new policy, our therapy dog program 3.2181. This is a first reading. We are pleased with this policy the way it's written. But again, I'm not going to ask you to waive second reading because you may see something that you might want changed in this uh, program policy. So, but it is being added for our current therapy dog program as well as an addition complementing 3.218, the service animals. So we recommend approval of the first reading.
All right. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second. Discussion.
I had a quick question. I just noted that in this policy, it says that to preserve the effectiveness of this program, other therapy dogs are not permitted. So if it does that mean if I was just curious, a student might have their own personal therapy dog per the policy ahead of that one. So do we need to change that wording in this policy?
No, there's a difference, a distinct difference between a service dog
And
and a therapy dog.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not all in favor? Thank you.
Item 5, policy revision, school district records, 1.407. This is a first reading. We're also recommending approval of first reading and waiving second reading. Previously, state law permitted individuals to submit a records request via fax. Public Chapter 94 removes this option. TSBA has updated their model policy to reflect that change. Our policy has been updated based on the model policy to make it more concise. The title has also been updated from access to public records maintained by the district. The administration recommends, as I said, first reading and asks you consider waiving second.
Thanks, sir. Is there a motion to adopt on first and waive on second?
Yes, so motion.
Ms. Barker, is there a second? Mr. Stillings, any discussion? Yeah.
We do. I don't know how much is used, but we have a fax.
Any further discussion on the facts? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor? All right, thank you.
Item number 6, policy revision, school district goals, 1.700. The revisions presented are made following questions that TSBA has received from districts about Public Chapter 494 and how it impacts boards. The new state law removes the requirement for educator diversity goals. Further, it prohibits districts from making hiring decisions on metrics other than merit. Additionally, the State Board of Education recently deleted the requirement for local boards to maintain a policy on this topic. Based on this, TSBA has recommended that boards review policies that may contain language on this topic along with any other relevant documents. PC 494 will impact this policy and policy 5.100, which is also being presented for first reading tonight. We recommend the approval of the first reading and a waiver of second reading.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to adopt on first and waive second? Mr. Stillings, is there a second? Ms. Barker, is there a discussion? All in favor?
Item number 7, policy revision, personnel goals, 5.100. This is also a first reading, as in policy 1.700. The revisions presented are made based on Public Chapter 494, which removes the requirement for educator diversity goals. Further, it prohibits districts from making hiring decisions, as I said earlier, on metrics other than merit. We recommend approval of first reading, adopting on first reading, and waiving second.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to adopt on first, waive on second?
I'll make a motion.
Ms. Newman, is there a second? Ms. Barker, is there a discussion? All in favor?
Item number 8, policy revision, charter school applications 1.901. Based on Public Chapter 275, this policy is being revised due to moving certain responsibilities from the Department of Ed to the State Board of Ed and the Tennessee Public Charter School Commission. Additionally, there is a new requirement that boards report all charter applications received to the Tennessee Public Charter School Commission. We recommend approval and adopting on first reading and waiver of second reading.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to adopt on first and waive on second?
Motion to approve.
Ms. Bell? Question? Second. Oh, second. Okay. All in favor?
Item number 9, policy revision, surplus property sales, 2.403. It's also a first reading. In the past, federal regulations require that certain actions be taken when property valued at $5,000 or below was disposed of. The limit has been increased to $10,000. The TSBA has recommended their model policy language to align with this new standard. Additionally, Public Chapter 500 includes new criteria for posting notices on news and information websites. The new law clarifies that the website is not intended to be the same newspaper of general circulation utilized for the printed publication. We recommend approval and adoption on first reading while waiving second reading.
Is there a motion to adopt on first and waive on second?
Motion to approve.
Ms. Bell, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Ms. Newman, is there a discussion?
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
I think I read in this where that applies to items that have been purchased with federal funds. Is there a different level for state?
Not that do you recall, David?
This just applies for those items purchased by federal funds. What was your question? I didn't hear the rest
Is
of
there
that.
a different threshold for anything else that's purchased?
The $500 dollar limit that we have on our surplus property.
5,000?
No, 500 for other things. That there's a less than $500 form and a more than $500 form. If the value is more than 500, then it needs to go before the board for board approval. If it's less than 500, then it just requires Dr. Snowden and Mr. Blair's approval.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Thank you.
Item number 10, policy revision emergency preparedness plan 3.202. This is also first reading. Public Chapter 315 clarifies that no more than 2 fire drills are required to occur within the first 30 full school days. TSBA has added that as a provision to the model policy, clarifying this point which is presented here. We recommend approval of the first reading and adoption while waiving second reading.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt on first and waive second?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
That's something we were already doing, Dr. Snowden, correct?
Well, yes, but you had to meet the requirements of the emergency preparedness plan. So
were there more required before that?
I don't remember. Selby's not here. Does Principal, do you remember? First month to the first month?
So now just 2 within the first 30 days.
Yeah.
Is the term fire drill a catch-all term, or is it differentiate between an armed intruder drill, things like that?
It's a different drill.
Okay, so this is just specifically fire.
Fire. And now there's a new technique that's required that you have to do an announcement, and I wish Selby was here. She explains it much better than I could, but anyway, you just don't automatically leave the room and the building because of if there is a shooter or intruder, then they may be the ones that's pulling the fire alarm. So there's some techniques there, or strategy or technique that we have to follow.
All right. Have a motion by Ms. Barker, second by Ms. Bell. Is there further discussion? Not all in favor?
Item number 11, policy revision threat assessment team. Per TSBA, there are new reporting requirements regarding threats and significantly disruptive behavior. A report must be made to parent guardians within 48 hours of the district reporting to law enforcement. Additionally, there must be a quarterly report of the instance provided to the board, and we recommend approval and adoption on first reading while waiving second reading.
There a motion to adopt on first and waive second?
Motion to approve.
Ms. Bell, is there a second?
I'll second. I have a question.
Ms. Newman, question?
When they say that you have to report to parents or guardians, are we talking the parents and guardians of the students involved or the whole school?
The whole school.
And how is this one of those policies we think might have some? To me, that sounds like a nightmare, just because of the whole school hearing something that maybe half the school didn't even know about, and it gets blown out of proportion. You think there'll be some guidelines on how to? I don't know. How do you feel about that when I read that, I thought, I'm thinking of the telephone game where one
Right.
person hears one thing and one person hears another. And
Yeah, and then I think the challenge is going to be, especially you. I mean, we have SROs in all of our schools, thankfully. So it's not like we call law enforcement to tell them to come to our school. If it's something that's a violation of the law, then they're already there. But to me, there is a clear difference in whether or not, I'll just say a fight. A fight could be determined as criminal offense if it's bad enough, but yet that poses no threat, in my opinion, at least, unless they were threatening to harm other children or other students. So I think that's going to be um, a real challenge, I guess I'll say, for us to at least this first few months until maybe we get some clarity from either our attorneys or the legislative attorneys or someone about what constitutes a threat that has to be reported to parents. Because what we don't want, I mean, and Ms. Bell uses this term a lot, and I've used it as well, but sometimes, most of the time, our principals are great at this. If something happens and we know parents, or we think or believe strongly that parents need to know, we like to tell our story before it gets told. And so if there is something significant and serious, we're going to tell the story first.
gotcha.
We're going to get our side out there. And Susanna and the principals work hand in hand to do that. Uh, but I do think it's still going to be a challenge in some cases.
All right. Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Did we get a vote? I'm sorry, I looked down. Okay.
Oh, yeah, we did. Yes, sir.
Item number 12, policy revision instructional program 4.100, first reading. This policy's title has changed from instructional goals. Moreover, TSBA has given updates to 3 policies in response to Public Chapter 293. The new state law requires boards to include the definition of anti-Semitism in anti-discrimination policies. The full definition is included in the updated version of Policy 4.100 and Policies 5.500 and 6.304. These have been updated to refer to that definition, each presented for consideration following this policy. We recommend approval or adoption on first reading while waiving second.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to adopt on first and waive on second?
Motion to approve.
Ms. Bell, Ms. Barker, second. Discussion? No discussion. All in favor?
Item number 13, policy revision, discrimination, harassment of employees, sexual, racial, ethnic, religious, 5.500, first reading. As in 4.100, TSBA has given updates to policies in response to Public Chapter 293, which is a state law requiring boards, again, to include the definition of anti-Semitism in anti-discrimination policies. The full definition, is included in the updated version of Policy 4.100 and 5.500 and 6.304 have been updated to refer to that definition. We recommend adoption on first reading while waiving second reading.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to adopt on first and waive on second? Ms. Newman? Ms. Barker, second. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Item number 14, policy revision, student discrimination, harassment, bullying, cyberbullying, and intimidation, 6.304. As in 4.100 and 5.500, TSBA has given updates to policies in response to Public Chapter 293, which is a state law requiring boards, again, to include the definition of anti-Semitism in anti-discrimination policies. We recommend adoption on first reading while waiving second reading.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to adopt on first and waive on second?
Motion to approve.
Ms. Bell?
And waive on second, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Ms. Barker? Discussion? All favor?
Item number 15, policy revision virtual education program 4.212. First reading, TSBA has provided model policy language as updates to this policy. Public Chapter 484 permits districts to use hybrid learning in the event of dangerous or extreme weather or in an emergency as determined by the director of schools. If a district uses hybrid learning, the board must have a policy in place regarding student attendance. TSBA has added this option to the virtual education policy. The administration recommends adoption on first reading while waiving second reading.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to adopt on first and waive on second?
Motion to approve.
Ms. Bell, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Stillings? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Thank you. Item 16, policy revision interscholastic athletics 4.301. The recent passage of Public Chapter 173 has provided that students attending virtual schools will now be permitted to participate in interscholastic athletics in accordance with TSSAA or TMSAA guidelines. If a school is not a member with these organizations, virtual school students zoned for the particular school shall be able to participate in interscholastic athletics to the same extent as other students. TSBA has added a provision to their model policy on this aspect. We recommend adoption on first reading while waiving second reading.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to adopt on first and waive on second?
I'll make a motion to adopt on first and waive on second.
Ms. Newman, is there a second? Ms. Barker, is there a discussion?
Do you have a question? Do we have any idea, like, how many students in Franklin or in our general area are doing some kind of virtual program? Is that knowledge we can get?
No, we have no idea.
Okay.
And we have had, and I don't know, Dr. Palmer may know, or Adam, someone else. We've had several I say several. We've had a few every year that are homeschooled and participate in interscholastic, but we've not. I don't know of any. Well, obviously it hadn't because this was changed. So I don't know how many students are in virtual. I know we have, or I don't know. I think we have some.
Are virtual students not considered homeschooled students?
No, they're considered virtual.
But they're doing it at home.
Some. Well, yeah. Either that or a location where several students meet and do it virtually.
Okay.
Like Starbucks.
Starbucks. I don't
A
know.
motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not all in favor?
Item 17, policy revision library materials 4.403. A recent change to state law clarifies that materials may not be excluded from school libraries solely on the grounds that they are religious. We recommend adoption on first reading while waiving second reading.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to adopt on first and waive on second?
Motion to adopt on first, waive on second.
Ms. Bell, is there a second?
A second.
Ms. Newman, is there a discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Item 18, policy revision use of the internet, intranet 4.406. Public Chapter 195, known as the Teen Social Media Act, specifies limits that must be in place for district internet use regarding age-appropriate content and protecting personal information. This new law also requires that districts prevent students from accessing social media platforms on district-provided internet unless expressly authorized by a teacher for educational purposes. The administration recommends adoption on first reading while waiving second.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to adopt on first and waive on second?
I'll make a motion to adopt on first and waive on second.
Ms. Newman, is there a second? Ms. Barker, is there a discussion?
I had a quick question. Sorry. It seemed like our current policy pretty much followed these guidelines. Are we just updating kind of the language?
Yeah,
When I read the policy, I feel
yeah.
like we were already doing that.
And we have
Just-
several, our Go Guardian system is in place and a fairly robust content blocking.
So more just change of language to
Yeah.
meet the bill. Okay.
All right, motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Not all in favor? Thank you.
Item 19, positive revision reporting student progress 4.601. With the passage of Public Chapter 330 during the recent session, report cards for students in grades K through 8 must now include the student score on the most recently administered universal reading screener and the results of a dyslexia screener if applicable. We recommend adoption on first reading and waiving second reading.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to adopt on first and waive on second?
I'll do that motion.
Okay.
Repeat.
I'll second.
Ms. Newman, second by Ms. Bell. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
You know, this really is a test of endurance.
It is.
And I can say I don't. Yeah, I know. I do not think that. Well, I'm pretty sure, just like several of these, like Ms. Newman said, that private school are not reporting student progress related to this. Anyway, item 20, positive revision employment of retirees 5.119. Public Chapter 159 makes several changes that will impact employing retirees in the 25-26 school year. Notably, there is now a requirement for a bona fide separation of service prior to reemployment. This includes a 60-day separation of service, and there can be no previous agreement to return to work. TSBA has provided language in their model policy along with recognizing the policy to align with the changes to state law, which is incorporated with this revision. Administration recommends adoption on first reading while waiving second reading.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to adopt on first and waive on second?
I'll make a motion to adopt on first and waive on second.
Ms. Newman, second.
And I'll second.
And Ms. Bell seconds. Is there a discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. This is always one policy that whenever I read, I feel like I have to take a shower afterwards. It's been revised to cut the salary to no more than 60% of what the retired teacher was making before, whereas before it was 85%. I'm not quite sure what this is trying to accomplish. Obviously, it's to fill teaching positions with experienced teachers, but I'm not quite sure that the state law revision is set up to do that. Now, what do we have as an option? Nothing. But I just kind of want to vent a little bit that I don't think that this is a very good law or policy.
Well, I totally agree. And as I understand it, as we understand it, the reason, the rationale given for these changes is that the Tennessee retirement system had some real issues with people. They felt like that they were not following the guidelines that they've laid out in their retirement program. So they felt the need to have or push for the legislature to change that, which the retirement system, nor the Tennessee Department of Education, nor the legislative branch is taxed with hiring teachers, which we are as a school district. But I agree.
Has it always been that retired teachers could come back and teach? Or is that a new thing when I've been on the board?
They're always been able to do that with
restrictions.
with a lapse in service. I mean, you had to be out for so many, and then you could only teach for, I think the 120 days.
So is this an improvement from what it used to be, or is it
some
in some ways, in some ways not?
And in some ways not.
I think there's still a lot of things in here that's open to interpretation. It says what a teacher or a retired member may work 120 days. Okay, is that contract days or is that calendar days or what? Because we, 200-day contract, so I would think that that's 120 contract days.
Yeah.
I would think it has to have something to do with the financial burden on the retirement system.
Yeah, it does.
With people retiring and then working and getting benefits from both salary and retirement benefits. But it does say it's 70% of their retirement allowance, not whatever you said.
Okay.
But that,
I guess
to
it's
me,
the other way. It was 60. The
I'm not a,
part,
yeah, and I'm not an
yeah, 70.
I'm not an economist, but you would think they should plan for that just as well, supply and demand. If a teacher's in demand and the supply is low, then school districts should have some flexibility as well as that retired teacher. If they're that if they're that high quality, then why not participate and help fund? The retirement system for educators is not phenomenal by any means. It's better in many states than it is in Tennessee.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not, all in favor? Thank you.
And I'm going to vote no, just out of principle.
Okay.
I know it'll still pass, but
Out of principle, we have a no. You got that, Karen?
Item number 21, policy revision, family and medical leave, 5.305. A cleanup bill, public chapter 235, made several changes to state law. One significant change is to the paid parental leave statute in which employees may use this type of leave. Under the new law, employees must satisfy certain criteria to be eligible for the paid leave. The changes to state law also clarify how this leave can be taken. Now employees may choose whether to take the leave consecutively or non-consecutively, but in increments of no less than 1 week. TSBA notes that there is a difference in how attorneys are interpreting the law, and as I said earlier, there is a request for AG's opinion, and if necessary, could possibly change this policy and revise this policy in the future. But we were under the impression, and this is much better because before, family medical leave could be taken a day at a time or a half day at a time. And there were instances where, not to my knowledge, not in our district, but some cases where people would just take that day from family medical leave and go play golf or do what else, and they weren't really utilizing the policy and the leave policy to what it was intended, for what it was intended. But we understood initially that the school board could decide how that leave, whether it was taking it consecutively or not. It was different increments. And I'm trying to remember. Sonia, you remember the details of that? Sorry. Yeah. And and going back to what I said earlier, what we understood in the initial passage was that boards could choose whether to allow employees to take consecutive leave, or we could allow them to take non-consecutive leave, but not include both. But at this point, it's unclear, or we're having to do this because there seems to be no um, consensus from the attorneys on what the legislators meant or what the attorneys or the legal department determined what they meant. But it is, as Sonia said, and as I said earlier, it is better than what it was. Did I make a recommendation?
No.
Okay. We recommend adoption on first reading, waive second, if I didn't say that.
All right. There a motion to adopt on first and waive on second?
So moved.
Mr. Stillings, is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Bell, is there discussion?
I have a question. Since you said that, how I thought the family and medical leave was for the birth of a child, adoption, serious health problem, medical emergency, military service. How would someone take just one day off randomly for that? If that's what the
law
family.
allowed it.
Hmm? Right, but you'd have to justify, like, I just had a baby last week and I needed, I mean, how do people take one random day off here and there?
That's why they.
Okay. Right. Right. Okay,
Yeah, to
thank
go
you.
back to your statement, the law initially was much too liberal.
Right. I mean, I agree with the 1 week or more, but I just would assume an employee has to have a reason under one of these as far as birth of a child, medical emergency, military service. They're not just turning in a day off for no reason. Or is that how it works?
That's how it worked. That's
Before.
how it did work.
Okay.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Item 22, policy revision substitute personnel 5.701 as listed with 5.305 presenting for first reading with public chapter 235. There are several changes made to the state law. TSBA has provided a model policy for the revision specific to this policy. It is noted that for teachers needing to be replaced for 20 or more days, the substitute must have a teaching certificate with endorsement in the discipline being taught or a retired teacher that held the appropriate endorsement. We recommend adoption on first reading while waiving second reading.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to adopt on first and waive on second? Ms. Barker, is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Newman, is there a discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Item 23, questioning students and searches 6.303. With changes to legislation in Public Chapter 244, there is a new training requirement for those school personnel who may conduct searches of students. Going forward, any searches of students must be carried out by a school resource officer, a school security officer, or a school administrator who has completed state required training, which we have not received that training that's going to be utilized yet, or at least I don't think we have. None of you, no principals have received any information yet, have you? I didn't think so. Public Chapter 244 requires the Department of Education to develop this training. We have updated this policy to align with these legal changes. The policy title also changed with these revisions, from interrogations and searches. We recommend adoption on first reading while waiving second.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to adopt on first and waive on second?
Motion to approve.
Ms. Bell, is there a second? Mr. Stillings, is there a discussion?
I'm confused about adopting it when we don't know the training yet and we haven't.
Well, you got to
we
do
don't-
it.
Okay.
But right now, it's only our principals. If we started school tomorrow, principals couldn't conduct searches, only the SRO. But as soon as they receive the training, then they also can do searches.
Okay.
But Yeah, even without the SROs are trained in searches. So the only people that we have to worry about training are our principals. And at this point, I guess you guys just SRO go search. We're not trained yet, even though you've probably searched, especially upper grades. We've done searches, administrators done searches seeming forever. But oh well, now we have to be trained in how to search.
Just for clarification, the SROs, when they are doing their training after school ends, this is a part of that type of training, correct?
I can't answer the question about what kind of training they receive.
We just
I
know
would
that they
I
are.
would guess that that is part of it, but for me to tell you absolutely
Mhm.
the different elements of their training, I could not do that.
Okay.
Have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Item number 24, policy revision, use of wireless communication devices, 6.312. Public Chapter 103 requires boards to adopt a policy on student use of wireless communication devices. This policy has been rewritten using the TSBA model policy as well as our district's current practice. Students may utilize wireless communication devices in certain circumstances now listed in the policy revision. Added to this policy are sections on penalties for improper use or storage and the plan for emergency communication, notifying parents through the school district's notification platform. We recommend adoption on first reading while waiving second reading.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to adopt on first and waive on second?
Motion to approve.
Ms. Bell, is there a second? Mr. Stillings, is there a discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Item 25, policy revisions, student wellness, 6.411. Previously, state law required elementary students to receive 130 minutes of physical activity per week. This has now been increased to 40 minutes each full day for recess, and regardless of the physical education classes. And middle and high school students are still required to receive 90 minutes of physical activity per full school week. These requirements are separate, as we said, from physical education classes. TSBA has provided the model policy language for these revisions. We recommend adoption on first reading while waiving second.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to adopt on first and waive on second?
So moved.
Ms. Barker, is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Newman, is there a discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Hang on.
Go ahead.
Better should understand this. So, what what will change by approving this policy? Any of our practices that occur?
Yeah, absolutely. We already had 30 minutes in elementary school changes. We already had 30 minutes each day of physical education, and we also had 20 minutes each day for recess. The new law requires 40 minutes of recess per day, along with our. I mean, we could change physical education, but and principals correct me, but I think in our discussions back before school was out, we may include some of the recess minutes as we transition to physical education classes. And then we still got maybe 10 minutes, and then we still got to come up with 10 more minutes.
So it's a mandatory recess law.
Yeah. But as I said in the earlier question that Ms. Newman asked related to this, it started out as 60 minutes of recess, plus we would still had 30 minutes of physical education. At that point, I think we have to seriously consider if it does happen, which I understand that's going to be brought back at this next session, then I think we have to examine how we move forward with that. As we told several legislators, well, the day that we had the retreat, they said take it away from language arts or math. You got 90 minutes block. Why can't you take 10 minutes of that? We're not held accountable for recess
Mm-hmm.
in the accountability system. We are held accountable for students' progress, growth, and achievement in language arts, English language arts, and math. But just take it out of, they don't understand what a 90-minute block looks like. I wish they would come into our schools and watch what occurs in a 90 block session of English language arts and math, whatever. But good luck in that happening.
Dr. Snowden, I just want to say for the record, I don't think a single legislator has even been in a school to see a full school day. And for them to um, ask of us to do this, I think is inappropriate and is not a good is not exercising their sage wisdom because they have no idea what an actual school day looks like. And I just want to say on record, I'm extremely disappointed. We've spent a lot of time making sure for elementary our kids have PE and recess every single day, and it's just disappointing that they continue to make laws and continue to give us regulations, and they don't understand the breadth of what they're asking.
Well, and I would venture to say that there's probably less than a handful of school districts in the state that offer physical education in elementary schools every day.
This is a classic example of one person does something in a district that makes people mad and it goes to the whole state. Whereas we offer excellent, I think, physical ed and recess for our students, but because some districts don't, we all have to go by this new law, which is 20 minutes more we have to add to our day. And I would assume our middle school students are fine at that level. Yeah. So I'm all about kids being active, but I feel like we've done a great job with what we have. And I don't understand why, what I really don't get is why physical education can't be counted as part of that, because that's structured, it's purposeful, it's educational. And there are a lot of kids in public schools who don't want to be outside at recess that long because maybe they're the ones that don't have friends to play with. I mean, let's be realistic. Not everybody loves being outside at recess every day, right? It's just very a narrow focus on, I'm sure, some people who aren't getting enough physical education in their school districts, which they probably aren't, some. And now we have to figure out how to make it work for ours.
I agree with Miss Bell. Um, if we're going to adopt policies that are made by legislators that have no idea how it affects um, children and the school day and scheduling and what's being offered, I think the least they can do is to come and experience it and look at it. So, would adopting this on first reading be kind of playing into that? If I think if we leave it out there, talk about it again, raise these same issues, I think maybe it might put a little pressure on them to show up.
I'm okay with doing a first
We could try
reading,
to get them to show up.
talking about it again.
Do we have a motion already?
No. Oh,
Yes.
no. Yeah, I think
Yes.
we do.
Oh, we do, because I,
You did.
I'll retract it.
Who? Barker and Newman made. Dr. Barker made the motion. Ms. Newman second.
I'll retract my second.
Did she make the motion? You made the first motion.
I retract my first.
Would you like to say what you
Want to reword it?
just adopt on first reading or approve first reading, please?
We're approving instead of just waiving.
Yeah, we're not waiving. We're just
Not
going to
waiting
approve.
second.
I motion we adopt on first. No,
Approve.
we approve on first reading.
There we go. Thank you.
Now you can second.
I'll second. I will second that and encourage us to see if we can get any of our legislators to come see what a school day is really like in our elementary schools.
Any other discussion?
Or any of our schools, not just
No,
Yeah.
any of our
not,
schools.
yeah, not just for physical education or
Yeah.
recess.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Thank you.
This is the policy revision we've been looking for. Item number 26, student records 6.6 If a student transfers from one school to another, Public Chapter 156 requires the district provide a copy of the student records to the new school within 5 business days. Revisions to this policy use TSBA model policy language. We recommend adoption on first reading while waiving second.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to adopt on first and waive on second?
Motion to adopt on first, waive on second.
Ms. Bell, is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Newman, is there discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. Dr. Snowden?
Thank you all for, again, your endurance of that is all the different policy revisions. 75, I did mention 75 laws, educational laws. I just wanted to get that point across again. I think there were over 150 educational related laws introduced. So just think, we could have had 28 more, 26 more. Anyway, moving on. Young Scholars Institute recap. Dr. Carlton has provided enrollment numbers for the camp, comparing this to this year's enrollment to last year. Total enrollment this year was 657 scholars compared to 544 last year. 199 scholars attended both weeks and 12 scholarships were provided. We're thrilled to have provided high quality experiences for more students this year. Thanks to Summer Carlton, Dr. Carlton, and the administrators of the camp, Crystal Lepping, Holly Osteen, and Travis King, and the many teachers and other support personnel that made this camp such a success. Our opening day celebration and professional development will be this Friday, August 1st. If your schedule allows, we'd like for you to join us that morning, August at 9 a.m. at Rolling Hills Community Church. We're starting a little later at the request of the police department. Hopefully the traffic will not be such an issue like it was last year. The morning session will feature Dr. Anthony Muhammad, who is an author, international thought leader, and expert in the areas of school culture and professional learning communities at work. We hope that you will be able to attend. Professional development for faculty and staff will also be held that afternoon at various locations throughout the district. And then there's some dates of some other trainings and opportunities for your professional learning. Thank you.
Thank you. Teaching and learning, Dr. Decker.
Nothing additional, sir. Thank you.
Dr. Esslinger.
Yes, good evening, everyone. July's collections from our tax revenue reflect an 8% increase month to month, and it contributes to a 6.6% increase year to year.
Thank you, sir. Any announcements from the board? I do want to say I enjoyed, as always, going to Young Scholars. Also got to get on the story bus and summer learning, and very excited this year to get to see the mural at WeMac. Thank you, Ms. Parks and Mac. So I think we had a great summer. Some of the food services, so it was always great again to get around and see all of our services that keep us going through the summer. Any other announcements? If not, we are adjourned.